Well, you know what they say, 3 times is the charm. So we're going to try this for the 3rd time. Happy Sunday evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us here at our kitchen, aka Freise's Corner Bar. And we're doing a pop-up tonight in conjunction with the Workout Club. We did this a while back and it was a lot of fun. We really enjoyed it and trying to catch back up and get back into this. So just wanted to give a shout out to Colleen and Connor for doing an awesome job at the Workout Club. And for those that don't know, they took over the Workout Club last October, and then the COVID hit in March, and they had to basically retool the whole operation, and they've done an amazing job. I'm belonging to 2 other gyms, and the other gyms have done nothing compared to what Colleen and Connor have done to keep everyone, and I mean everyone, safe, from the trainers to the support people to all the attendees for the classes. And I think they were one of the first actually to go to virtual training, which I do every Wednesday at 8:15 for Strength Upper Body. Tonight we've got kind of an interesting, fun show. I think you'll enjoy it. I am actually going to be preparing a horseradish encrusted pork loin roast. Shannon is going to make a couple of cocktail and share with you a wine from a local friend of ours. So without any further ado, I'd like to turn it over to Shannon. She's going to get the cocktail started. I'm going to check the roast that I have in the oven, and then after this cocktail gets prepared, I'll show you how I made what I have in the oven. All right, Shannon?
I'm sorry, guys, for those technical difficulties. I was trying out a new publishing software, and clearly my morning testing was not complete. I wasn't able to test that on the workout page. So sorry for that, but here we are. So tonight I am going to make an apple cellar. We've made this before on our show. We're going to be using the Applejack liqueur. This is a layered Applejack. It is about a $20 bottle. It's actually an apple brandy, and it is very tasty. I like it with a good fall cocktail, and it goes great with pork. So this is a very simple cocktail. It just has 4 ingredients. So I'm going to start with maple syrup. 1 cocktail calls for a ½ ounce, and I'm going to be making 2. So I'm going to pour 1 ounce of the maple syrup. And whenever you're pouring, you always want to pour the simple syrup first, because then you can use that same measuring cup. So I'm going to put to kind of rinse it out, so you make sure you get everything. So this is going to take 4 ounces of the Applejack. So 1 recipe calls for 2. And so that was 2 to rinse out the syrup. That is my 4th. And then it calls for 3/4 ounce of lemon juice. And anytime you use lemon juice in a cocktail, you want it to be fresh squeezed, and then you want to strain it in a fine mesh strainer. That will get all the pulp out, and it'll just make sure that you have a very nice, clean, clear cocktail. So that's 3/4 ounce of the lemon juice and 3/4 ounce of freshly squeezed orange juice. And again, the same applies. You squeeze it and then you strain it. And then this is a shaken cocktail. Since there's juice in a cocktail, you always want to shake it. So I am going to, actually first I'm going to add my bitters. So this takes 2 dashes of Angostura bitter. And a dash, when you do a dash in a cocktail, you just really want to give it 1, 2. It's a good, kind of flip of the wrist. And then 2 ounces of Bitter Truth aromatic bitters. Now this is very clovey, and it'll bring out the nice fall flavors. Prior to mixing your cocktail, you'll want to make sure that you have chilled. This is your glasses. This is going to be served in a coupe glass. So do you want to show what you're doing over there?
No, I'm not doing anything.
Okay. So we're going to get the coupe glasses all ready so that when we shake our cocktail, we're gonna fill the shaker with ice. And then you just tap it to create a seal, and you're gonna wanna shake this for probably, 30 seconds. You'll be able to feel when the shaker gets cold and you can't hold it anymore. Okay, so that's good. Now I release the seal on those. And this is a Hawthorne strainer, so this is all shaken cocktails are double strained. You want to make sure you get all the bits of ice, and if there's any additional pulp or something else, and I just kind of walk it back and forth, make sure get the same amount in each glass. Get every bit out. And then this cocktail is garnished with freshly grated nutmeg. So you just take your little nutmeg and a microplaner, and you just give it a couple good scrapes over the top. Move this all out of the way. And so here are the Applejack Cellars. Cheers, baby, I love you.
Love you too.
So it's
very good.
It's very good. It's just nice and light and refreshing. It's not too boozy, and it's a good cocktail to start before your meal. So you ready now to do the pork loin?
Yes, I am. So
1 minute. Let me get the camera so
Okay.
I can move it over so everybody can see what's going on. Okay.
So what I have is, this is about a 2-pound pork loin. It's just Shannon and I here. Normally we would probably have double this if Jake and Max would have been here as well. So I set this out for about 20 minutes because I like to bring the meat down to room temperature. And then the other thing that you want to do is you always want to dry your meat off, okay? So I'm just going to let that set. I wear gloves so I don't have to always wash my hands, so I have the extra large one, and then I have one of Shannon's mediums that didn't really fit too well because I just ran out of these. So we are going to encrust this with breadcrumbs, a little salt and pepper, some Dijon mustard, and some melted butter, and horseradish. And so what I thought would be sort of fun is to show you how to make horseradish. So this is actually a horseradish root, and it's kind of like I don't know, I think a brownish color. I'm colorblind, so it could be red for all I know. But anyway, take your potato peeler, and you just peel it all off, and it comes out to this nice piece of white. Take your knife. This thing, they're really hard. So you want to cut them into just small little chunks. And this knife is sharp, and these are really hard to do. You're supposed to do about a cup of this. This is about 5 ounces because I made some of this earlier today for the demo that I have in the oven. And then you're going to take about half a teaspoon of salt. And I have about a half a cup of vinegar here, because I'm not making the full amount because I didn't have quite a cup of horseradish. Put it in your blender. This is a Vitamix, same thing. can still hear there's a few chunks in there. Alright, in the essence of time, we're going to move right along. So, I don't know if you can see this, but this looks just like what you would probably find in a jar at the store. And this is so much better. It has no other additives into it. It will clear up any sinus problems that you may have. So this is some that I made earlier today. I'm just going to put that into my jar here. So you can see how nice and pureed this is. It's just nice and creamy. So, anyway, so you put it into your jar. To get our pork loin going, we're going to take about a cup of breadcrumbs. So let me just, when I say about, when I cook, I don't necessarily use recipes unless I'm baking, because baking is like a science. If you don't do it right, it's not going to turn out. Cooking, you have a lot more, in terms of just regular cooking, you have a lot more flexibility, and there's a lot more forgiveness if you have a little bit too much of one spice or a little less of the other. It doesn't necessarily impact the overall flavor as much as it would if you were baking a cake or something that requires precise, exact measurements. So I have about a cup of breadcrumbs, give or take. I'm going to take, we like horseradish, so I'm going to put 3 or 4 good tablespoons of this right into this, into these breadcrumbs. Now I'm using panko breadcrumbs. I always use unseasoned because I like to do my own seasoning. I don't want my stuff to be pre-seasoned, so I typically just buy the 4 C's panko unseasoned. Then I mix in with this. Where did my little spatula go? About 3 or 4 tablespoons of Dijon mustard. And this is just a recipe that I've kind of done over the years. It's not exact. It's not really a recipe from anybody that I know. And then this is my butter that got melted, and then it started to solidify a little bit. Mix that in there. And then we're just going to mix this up. So if you get doing this and you find that it's too dry, you've got a couple of options. One, you could melt some more butter. Or 2, you could just take a little bit of olive oil and mix that in there. Because what you're looking for is a paste kind of consistency. And that's exactly what we're getting right here. I know this looks kind of yucky. My glove is ripping off, but you can see it's just a nice sort of paste, right? So, I'm going to take my pork loin. It's all nice and dried off. And the reason you always dry off meat before you roast it is that it won't properly brown if you don't. Moist meat, in terms of the moisture from the meat itself, you won't get that nice brown to it. So I'm using a skillet for this. This is a heavy duty all-clad skillet, and I bake in these skillets a lot. So I've got my pork there. I have to get this broken glove off because that's just ridiculous. So I'm just going to lightly salt it. It's going to get all over. And I always use coarse kosher salt. I don't really ever use table salt for pretty much anything. There are times when it is called for. I do have it in the cabinet there, but it's rare that I ever use it. So we're only going to coat the top. I always leave the fat back on, or this nice layer of fat, because I want some moisture to get into this. And if you notice, this is, I like pork loins and pork tenderloins because of the leanness of the meat. So, and there may be extra of this stuff here. that is just the fire alarm going off. We probably have a fire. No, I'm kidding. It's the thing right here. Alrighty, pull that out. So this is the one that I did earlier today. This will go over to my neighbors. This got a little browner than I probably would have liked. I did have this on there earlier to try to prevent that. I will temp that. I think that should be at 145, 140. I usually try to pull pork out of the oven at 135. Typically I'll tint it. I'll leave the shiny side down. That will help keep the heat in. And then what that will do is help finish out that meat to get it up to that 140, 145. It used to be 150 or 155, I think, and the government changed that. I believe back in 2011, they lowered down the temperature for pork that it needed to be, or it should be cooked to, I believe, 140 degrees. So, okay, so you can see I've just made a nice little covering on here. I have my pan oiled, ready to go. It's not really oiled, it's just sprayed. I'm trying to not use this hand. Pick it up, pop off the glove. My hands are nice and clean. I'm just going to slide this into the oven. And I'll set the timer. I always set for, I usually, if it takes 40 minutes or 45 minutes or an hour, I usually set it for 20 minutes. I like to check things as it progresses. The last thing I want to do is go to all this trouble and come back in an hour, because I think it's going to take an hour and find out that it's way overcooked or the topping got burnt or something of that nature. So I'm going to let this sit here for about 10 minutes, because I want all the juices just to relax. I want it to flow back into the juice, into the meat. You never want to cut meat right out of the oven. We let our steaks rest about 10 minutes. If we cook a big beef roast, we'll let it rest for 20 minutes. This one, I think, called for 10 or 15 minutes, but we always let our meat rest just to let everything relax and let all the juices flow back. So what I'm going to serve with this tonight is, I made some roasted vegetables. I haven't roasted them yet, but I have sweet potatoes, fennel, carrots, celery, onions. I love these little bitty potatoes. I love those little finger type potatoes and celery. And then I put it into a gallon Ziploc. And because I'm cooking this meat at 425, if I used avocado oil. I like using that because it has a high heat temperature. So if I would have used one of my olive oils or my extra virgin, you'll start to get a lot of smoke into your kitchen, because I think the smoking point on those oils is around 325, 330, something like that. So I like to use a hot oil, an oil like the avocado oil, and then I mix in my spices. I think today I use salt, pepper, garlic powder. I use some smoked paprika, so if you notice, it probably had a little bit of a reddish, orangey style tint to it. I think I put a little thyme in there and a little oregano. So then I just mix it all up in that gallon Ziploc, and then I just lay it out, even it out. I don't want anything stacked on top of each other, because then what happens is those two vegetables will sort of steam together or steam each other. I don't want that. I want them to roast and get a nice crust on there. And cooking this at 425 will definitely do that for you. If you have a convection oven, you could turn that on. I'm not turning mine on because I don't want my roast to brown too quickly. Towards the end, I may turn it on for just a little bit to finish it out. I think that's about all that I have. So as you can see, this I'll cut this before we finish, just to make sure everything's good with it, and you guys can see the inside. I'm going to turn this back over to Shannon. She's going to go over a nice Pinot Noir that would accompany this meal very nicely.
Let me just get the camera adjusted here. Sorry, folks. It's the so we always like to have a little bit of wine with our meal, and tonight we are having a Pinot Noir. This is distributed by Scout and Cellar. Kelly Dwight is actually a wine consultant for this company, so if you are interested in finding out more, we'll post in the Facebook comments how you can contact Kelly. But this wine is Gallivant. It's a Pinot Noir. It's from Northern California. It's a 2019. It is aged in stainless steel, so there's, you know, it doesn't touch wood at all. It's also gluten-free. The Scout and Cellar wine line is all natural. There is much less tannins, much less of the other additives that could potentially go into wine. This wine is actually a 14% wine, which is a high alcohol content. And I would say most of the Scout and Cellar wines are higher in alcohol content because I think they don't, because they don't add additives, the sugars don't convert as rapidly. So you still get more of the more alcohol versus the fermentation. So, honey, want to come try this?
Now they do have some 13% alcohol wines, I believe.
Whites.
Yes, some whites and stuff. So Kelly actually came and used our garage last week for a wine tasting session. So she had people out there all last Saturday afternoon. We went out and did an early tasting and liked them, so we ordered some, and we encourage you guys to check them out as well.
So this is very fruity. It is somewhat bold. I think because of the alcohol content in the Pinot, it's a little bolder. You get notes of kind of cherry cola and just the bright fresh fruit. So,
it's very tasty.
Yes,
it's going to go very well with this meal tonight. So what else have we got?
That's it.
Okay.
So thank you for joining us, and have a great Sunday.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. Peace out.